The Senran Kagura series started just a few years ago, but has already spawned a couple of manga series, an anime series, and 7 video games, with the newest one finally making it to North America for the Vita and PlayStation 4, Senran Kagura Estival Versus. Now, the main series is a really fun hack and slash filled with lots of well-endowed anime girls, and the fan service that goes along with the games is a little bit controversial. However, for fans of that, is this game worth checking out? And for those who maybe are opposed to the whole kind of fan service side of things, is there enough fun and action-packed goodness to keep you titillated? Estival Versus is a brand new story in the Senran Kagura universe, taking many of the girls from the past games and adding a few new ones into the mix. The game is a lot of fun. It's hack and slash to the core, but you also have the aesthetics of a ton of well-endowed anime girls bouncing everywhere and shedding each other's clothing as you're battling through the levels. There are over 25 playable characters in Estival Versus, and not only do you have the main story and extra side missions for each of the individual characters, as well as a few other bonus missions thrown into the mix, you also have online play that you can go online and battle others as your favorite girl from the game. Unlike previous games in the series, Estival Versus has one giant story containing all the girls and all the teams, instead of individual shorter stories based on the teams in particular. In the main story, you get to play as all the girls, switching from mission to mission to a different character. You're never playing as the same one for back-to-back missions. But what's great is you can go back and replay any mission that you've already completed and pick whatever character you would like. There's also 3 different difficulties for every single mission, so you can beat it on easy and then go back with your favorite character and play it on a harder difficulty. This does force you to play as characters you may not like, but it also gives you the opportunity to play as ones maybe you never would have checked out, and you may find a new one that you really like. In the story, the girls have been teleported to a mysterious island where they're competing against one another in this weird festival contest. The people running the contest work as the new characters introduced. This new island is kind of completely separate from the main Senran Kagura series, and time actually freezes while they're on this particular island. The goal is to destroy each of the other team's towers, and the team to do so is the winner, which will allow them to learn a secret ninja art, as well as for some of them to put to rest a loved one. In fact, while on the island, they end up having kind of flashbacks with their particular loved ones, and this really kind of plays into the characters' heads, and you get to learn more about their backstories. When you're learning about these characters' backstories, you'll see kind of a stagnant image with text slowly scrolling by. Anytime you see these particular scenes, you know that it's more serious. You're usually finding out about a particular character's past. But then you have the other cutscenes where you're seeing the full-blown character models, and you get to hear them talk. The voice acting is all in Japanese. There is no option for English voices, though I'm sure hardcore fans will definitely not have a problem with that. During these cutscenes is where a lot of the questionable dialogue likes to come into play. And even I was shocked at sometimes with what exactly was being said. Sometimes it was actually really funny, and other times I was like, wow, did they just do or say what they just did or said? Either way, some people are going to be a little bit turned off by those particular scenes, but the good thing is, honestly, you can skip those scenes. Not only can you, of course, press the start button, you can actually turn off all the story cutscenes in the options. Speaking of the options, you can also turn off the option of breaking the clothing down on the characters. During combat, your clothing, as well as your opponent's clothing, depending upon how much damage you're taking, will slowly start to fall off until they're just in their underwear. And I thought it was a good idea for them to give you the option to turn that off, because honestly, that element of the game isn't really the key that makes the game fun by any means. It's not like Akiba Strip, which was another game that had a very similar premise where you broke down your character's health and then ripped off their clothing. In Senran Kagura, you're still going to get the fun overall experience even if you're not watching the clothing getting broken off. When it comes to the main gameplay, it is a hack and slash. You have your strong, weak, and special attacks. Each character has a meter that fills up, and once a meter fills up, you get a scroll. You can then use that scroll to either transform into this other costume that also gives you not only more combos or different combos, also will then allow you to hold the L1 button and then press square, triangle, and circle, costing you a different amount of scrolls depending upon which one you end up using to unleash a special move. The real fun part about this game is that huge variety of various weapons that you get with the different characters. Each character has a different moveset, even ones that have similar weaponry like a sword, or a couple of characters actually even both have an umbrella. They both have completely different movesets, and some characters are fast, some are slow, and some can combo various different ways, and it's really fun to play as all the different characters throughout the main story and find which ones you like the best. There are a few new things added to this game that were not in previous Kagura games, including wall running, and sometimes you're going to have a partner with you. Unfortunately, there is no co-op for the main story or anything like that, but the AI-controlled partner is kind of okay, but it allows you also to pull off double team moves against your opponent, just knocking them up into the air, and then holding R1 and pressing circle, you'll be able to do a big multiple hit combo with both of the characters, which usually unleashes quite a bit of damage. If you're familiar with past Senran Kagura games, or you've ever played games like Dynasty Warriors or Oni Chimbara, you kind of have an idea of what to expect as far as the amount of enemies on screen at a particular time. And the game does an okay job when it comes to the amount of enemies. Sometimes the camera can kind of get out of place, though thankfully you can control it at any time. You just have to use the right stick, which can be a little bit difficult, especially in the heat of the moment when you're mashing buttons, but either way you have that option. The game does chug a little bit though, with a lot of characters on screen, and especially in certain settings. It wasn't to the point that it drove me insane or made me start getting angry or anything, but there were definitely some frame rate drops at certain particular points. But overall, I would say the game ran relatively okay for the amount of chaos that was going on screen. There is also a lot of content here in Estival Versus. You have the main story, which is broken up into 9 different days, with its opening and then the 8 main days of the festival. Each one of the days has 5 main story missions for them. Plus, every character, all 25 of the main characters, have their own set of 5 missions for you to play. Plus, there are special missions that you unlock as well for bonuses, and those are actually a little bit tougher than the normal main or side missions. Throw in the fact that you have so many playable characters, you have multiple different difficulties in order to ramp it up for a really good challenge, and just an overall really fun hack and slash gameplay. Senran Kagura will have you playing for hours. If you're a fan of the hack and slash genre, even if you're not really into the whole kind of fan service part of it, it may be worth checking out because there is a lot of content here. Speaking of extra content, you also have a shop that you can go into where you can unlock and buy new costumes, new hairstyles, the music, the various kind of CG cutscenes from the game, as well as the special elimination cutscenes. Basically, in any of the levels, you'll come across an exclamation point, and if you end up defeating one of those enemies near an exclamation point, they'll go into a special cutscene where they're completely stripped of their clothing, and then something funny ends up happening, whether it's them getting knocked into a tree, or knocked down into a well, and they're pulled up with a bucket, and they're all tied up in the rope of the well bucket. These scenes can be bought, and then you can actually pick any character in the game and then watch their cutscene for it if you want to. There's also the diorama mode where you can take any of the characters after you've already dressed them in the way you want to, and then pose them any way you want to. I honestly only checked this out a little bit, but one of the funniest parts of it was there's a couple of poses in there that made me laugh hysterical, including power butt and power cleavage, and they are exactly what you think they are. Either way, you don't ever have to go into this mode, so for those who once again aren't going to be into the fan service, you don't really have to go into this part. Estival Versus is the first of the Senran Kagura games that I've actually played through, and I was really surprised at just how much was here. the different types of powered up modes, whether it's the alternate costume or the mode where you shed your clothing, where you have an increased attack but decreased defense. You can level up your characters, that huge variety of weapon types, different styles of characters, and a ton of missions to play through and a lot of things to unlock as well. I also want to praise Xseed for once again delivering an awesome game overall, because not only do you get the game in this box for the standard $59.99 price, but you can get it a little bit cheaper if you get it digitally for $49.99. But for $59.99 you get the game in this special box. You get a pack of like trading cards that actually there are 4 different sets of, so you may not get the same exact ones that I ended up getting. You also get an art book, and you get a full soundtrack. I know it'll be hard to see, but that's the track listing. There is a lot of tracks. There's actually 2 discs for this soundtrack. So once again, I have to praise Marvelous, aka Xseed, for just another great package. And of course, they included a manual with the game as well, including also an alternate cover for the game, so you kind of switch that inner cover out if you want to look a little bit differently. In the end, though, I really enjoyed it. I'm shocked at how much I ended up having fun with Senran Kagura Estival Versus. I'm giving the game an 8 out of 10 because that's just how much I ended up liking it. I think there's a lot of variety, a lot of missions, and a lot of content for what you end up getting. But hey guys, that's going to wrap up this review of Senran Kagura Estival Versus for the PlayStation 4. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.